So yeah, with that, let's go ahead and get started and maybe do some intros, and maybe we could kick it off with Bianca, our co-host today.
Hey guys, so my name is Bianca. I'm a community expert in building with several different projects, probably some of your favorite projects that have launched within large IPs and also smaller ones. I'm also co-founder of Lunatics, and we have our lead engineer who's here, and I'll have him introduce himself, and also our very talented Cassidy, she's speaking under Lunatics. And I'm just excited to be here. I've helped build a bunch of communities in the past, and also to I've had the opportunity of being able to explore certain creator tools and just things that make community building easier. But also, like, I'm interested to kind of talk about, like, what the hell does community even mean, right? Like,
Mhm.
everybody uses that term. Every individual kind of approaches that term differently, especially when it comes to businesses and also co-founders. So I'm just interested to kind of hear everybody's perspective on that and have an open conversation. So that's a little bit about myself, and I'll let everybody else introduce themselves too.
Amazing. Thanks, Bianca. Thanks, Jess. So I'm Linus, currently VP of Product at Origin Protocol. I've been in the crypto space personally for about 6 years. Built some cool things at Coinbase, but here at Origin, we have a number of different products. We have a couple of products for DeFi, but just more relevant to the topic at hand today about communities. I run product and business for the NFT platform. Where we've been in the NFT space, relatively early since 2021, serving creators, artists, and community builders, with custom marketplaces, but also tools to help them run their Web3 business. I'm part of many communities myself, being an avid NFT collector, and just really, really fell in love with the vibes and the uniqueness here, and really excited to be building for creators to give them more tools and empower them to build their communities.
Thank you, Linus. And just a quick shout out. I don't know who your intern is, but Origin Intern has the funniest memes ever. So shout out to the intern. They always go unrecognized, but you got to give credit to those memes. So yeah. Who wants to?
Oh man, that means the world.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Who wants to go next? Go ahead, Monterey.
Yeah, I was gonna say I can go. Good job, Origin intern. Way to seize the memes of production. Also, First Republic Bank is why we got the dip earlier. Happy Hump Day. So what am I? So I guess I am the head of product at a Web3 company that is actually building a creator platform to kind of figure out and solve the problem what's next after the mint happens for NFTs. But I'm also, much like Bianca, co-founder of Lunatics as well. As our collective project that's actually a lot bigger. We're kind of building a big tech platform as well. Um, I've been in the crypto space kind of personally for a little bit more than 10 years, professionally for a little over two. Yeah, I mean, I think community is just kind of this whole shared ideal of something, shared mindset. I think in Web3 especially, it's about kind of driving innovation and development, and kind of, we all have this idea of like mass adoption and getting to that. So um, just being around like-minded individuals, like, much like Linus said, I'm a member of a lot of different NFT communities. I have a couple that I consider like my home base, and that's like the place that's, I hang out probably most of my day while working too. So yeah, great to be here. Appreciate it.
Happy to have you here. Who else wants to go? Is it IMVU, or how do you pronounce it? I don't want to say it incorrectly.
I'm sorry. Yes, it's either. You know what? It's either. It's a little bit like Adidas or Adidas, right? We've got users that call it IMVU or IMVU. So both are correct. So you can't be wrong in this community. Thanks. This is John Burris. I'm actually the co-founder of a company called MetaJuice that is owned by the parent company that owns IMVU. And IMVU, or MetaJuice and IMVU, are working together to really take one of the largest social metaverses and take it into the Web3 space. So IMVU has got just about 4 million plus monthly active users, 700,000 plus daily active users, a huge, vibrant economy, all run by the community. It's been around for over 15 years. So you have this really vibrant, Web2 business, right, with mobile apps and desktop apps. And over the last 5+ years, we've really been transferring it, if you will, or enabling it with Web3 assets and technologies. So we've got millions of users with active wallets. We've got a very vibrant NFT marketplace that's in the kind of top 10 rankings of DApp Radar, and we're about ready to launch kind of a exchange listed token that will bring a lot of value to the community as well. So we can talk about what's going on here, but it really is a vibrant global community run by the users themselves. The creators, the earners on the platform are the ones that have been powering this metaverse for, again, 15+ years.
I kind of want to, before we go, I want Cassidy to have a chance to introduce herself. But for those of you that don't know, I call it IMVU because it was actually, I remember using it when I was like 13 years old, and I'm much older now.
You're much older now.
And yeah, I'm much older. It's been over 10 years. I'll just put it that way. And what's interesting is it was kind of like RuneScape, Neopets, and IMVU. And it was like don't ask me why, like a 13-year-old was talking. I guess nothing has changed. I'm still talking to strangers.
Yes, that's right.
Just professionally,
That's right.
But it's really interesting because I really love the fact that you guys, again, I remember using your guys' as like a virtual chat rooms.
Yes. Yep.
And the fact that you guys are building this creator platform for individuals to be able to have their own accessories that can be minted to the individuals, like a peer-to-peer transaction, is super interesting, and I'm really looking forward to hear more about that.
Well, thank you.
Before that, I want to have Cassidy introduce herself because she also is a powerhouse in the Web3 space, and I feel like not many people have had the chance to hear her out.
Thank you, Bianca. Hi, everyone. Great to be here. Happy Wednesday. I am Cassidy, and I am currently CMO of a Web3 organization, but also working very closely with the Lunatics, really specializing in content and communications. But more broadly, I've been working in the Web3 space for almost five years now, I would say, and was really drawn in by the world of corporate venturing, sort of meets blockchain, and have really been here ever since. And I don't think I'm going to be going anywhere.
Welcome. And we also have BB here because Bitcoin. Who do we have behind there? And do you want to introduce yourself?
Hi, Jess. It's Wabi. It's always going to be Wabi. How are you today? Okay, are you guys able to hear me properly?
Yeah, you sound good.
Perfect. Well, yeah, great to be here. Always a pleasure to be on the same panel with you, Jess. My name's Wabi. I work for Because Bitcoin. We are a financial media news company. We're a startup. We're only a few months old, and basically we facilitate data on all things financial markets. We interact with people from the FinTwit community, but also digital asset space. It could be projects, devs, founders, or some key opinion leaders, right? And our goal is to showcase non-biased and honest media as far as all things financial markets. And as far as myself goes, I've been in crypto for about 5 years now, full time for about 3. Thank Lord Jesus. DeFi summer was really good to me, and been a active member in Twitter Spaces since the second half of 2022. I think it's honestly the greatest networking tool that we know, and I sort of think of it as a free online virtual summit where you're able to interact with founders and all things of the like in the digital asset space for free, compared to something like a conference where the ticket size overall with room and board and flight can cost upwards of over 10,000 USD. So great to be here, and thank you for allowing me to introduce myself, Jess. I hope I've made you proud with that.
You did great, Wabi. And just before I throw it back to Bianca, I guess to answer your question, like to me, like community I've formed a community around hosting Twitter spaces, like Wabi says. Like, I love Twitter spaces. And since the last time, a few of you guys were here, you've been able to connect and make, partnerships and connections. So that's what I love about the communities here, is bringing people together and seeing the magic that they're going to create. So yeah, I just wanted to add that, Bianca. Go ahead. I'll throw it over to you.
Yeah, so I mean, I guess I want to open up the conversation with what community means to each and every one of you. I've had the privilege of being able to participate in different things across the Web3 space, and every time I meet with a founder or a CEO or whatever, they're like, we need help with community building. Community management is something that we really want, and we really want to focus on community. And 9 times out of 10, each and every one of those projects or individuals or companies kind of refer to community in a different way. They all kind of target the same things, but at the end of the day, they all are focused on different things. Whether that be, hey, we want to grow the community that eventually turns into token holders, or they mint our NFTs, or right, we have individuals like Jess and somebody else I really appreciate in the space, Elena. I'm sure you guys have, if you guys haven't seen her stuff, it's really interesting. Every day she posts, kind of like a Web3 recap of what happens daily. And she's built an interesting community off of that. So to me, it's kind of like an all-encompassing term, and everyone has a different meaning to that. So maybe I open it up to Cassidy first to kind of talk about that, and then maybe we can go to Linus after and then go from there.
Yeah, Bianca, I think that's a really good preface. And the way that you describe it, there's so many different perspectives. And you and I have actually been really fortunate to work together for quite a while on a variety of different projects. And we continually run into some very diverse perspectives about what community really, really means. So from my perspective, I actually spent a good portion of my early career licensed and practicing in the mental health profession, as you know. And I still really bring that viewpoint with me when I think of community. For me, it's really about connected human interest. So it's more than just that group of people sharing, that common interest. It's about that group of people connecting to one another through that common interest, and also having that invested interest of some form in that shared opportunity together, whether that be financial or emotional, or even from a brand perspective, or even affiliation between companies and employees. It's about that really connected, common, shared interest.
That was awesome. And I very much largely align with everything that she said right there. But, adding my own little twist, when I think about community, let's think about maybe the historical, kind of human level origins of community. It was like your physical, your community meant like your neighborhood. Basically, you had no choice. You were kind of like surrounded by these people or these landmarks and things like that. And then, to her point earlier, human interest started to come into play, where you could develop communities around religious groups or sports teams or things like that, and people started to identify with communities based off of interest. And what I love about just the online nature, always connected nature, and specifically Web3, is that people can be part of many communities, and it doesn't have to be related to kind of like geographical boundaries. And people can kind of just flow in and out of various communities. And I think the key operative principles here are that vested interest, really around shared interest, and a feeling of a sense of ownership around, like, I am part of this community, I have ownership, I have skin in the game. And I think it's this, like, community in Web3 is this weird nebulous thing that is not quite, you are like employed by an organization, otherwise you'd be a company, right? You'd have a purpose. You'd probably have some sort of instructions or things that you need to accomplish. It's not quite that, and it's not on the other side of the spectrum of I'm a fan of something, right? I might be a fan of Marvel Comics, but I am not part of a Marvel Comics community, right? If Marvel Comics decides to do something to one of my favorite characters, I'm not outraged like I would be if I was part of a community and they did something. And so that I think is a key operative. Like it's somewhere in the middle. It's this magical thing where, it can be incredibly powerful for whatever you're building, where you've got inbuilt supporters that feel like they've got this sense of ownership, that they feel an inherent need to support and promote and build with you. But it can also be, it can also go the other way if community members are upset about particular decisions. And I think that's the tricky line that Web3 builders have to kind of toe with building community.
I think that's really interesting that you kind of talk about just overall community sentiment. I kind of want to open up that then to IMVU over here, because I know that you guys have an existing platform of millions of
Yeah.
users, I'm sure,
Yes.
that will probably resonate with what was just said. If you want to expand on that, and then we can head on over to Monterey.
Yeah, no, there's been some great things shared here. And I love the kind of last play there around comparing fans to those who are probably a little bit deeper part of the community. I'd say this at IMVU, and again, it's a global platform in 120 countries with 13 plus languages supported. So the way we think about it is there's likely thousands of communities on our platform, right, that come together in this virtual space in avatar form and want to go really beyond just simple chat, but express themselves with the way they look, the way they move, the way they interact with each other. And then I think it often is around these common interests. And what was shared, I think it may have been even Cassidy, it could be those interests could obviously be around, I'll call them topics, discussions that they're having in a room or hanging out in a bar talking about various things. But those interests at the moment too could just be some friendship, just some casual interactions, just some harmless flirting, if you will, right? And those may not be kind of deep organized communities in some of those categories, but those users come together. And then I think one thing that's being shared here a little bit, or I think this is certainly something we all have to try to understand where we focus and how we help nurture this, which is different members of that community do want to engage at different levels. So what does that mean for all of us, right? Not everybody's going to engage every day on your in the application for 4, 5, 6 hours, or on your Discord channel and be super, super active. And so, of course, we know and want to nurture those that are, but how do you think about building a community or making space for those that want to come into a community that maybe aren't that deeply engaged quite yet? So, because a little bit, we want to keep our doors open to everybody, right? And not hold people out just because maybe they aren't quite as deep yet. There's probably a movement between fans and moving their way into a community. And so how do we all think about that too, right? Given sometimes these communities can be, while we think they're growing, so it feels like they're big, but I think the more we keep things open, the more, and inviting, the bigger opportunity there is to create these communities.
Let's go to Rivers. That was awesome. Thank you for that.
Yeah, that was really great. I think I'm going to keep building on that. Like, I think you touched on a really important point there. From a product perspective, there are a variety of different user personas that make up each individual community, and then each community kind of is its own persona that makes up the larger Web3 space. So trying to build something or figure out who to build for or what to build, and drive focus can be really challenging. So, I mean, yeah, being someone in product, if you're not immersed in the space and in the culture and in it 24/7, then you probably aren't going to make it as a product leader, as we see when all the Web2 places people come into our space and treat us like ATM machines. They can GTFO. That being said, community, I think another kind of key point is community has to be organic. To me, it's every single project, and probably more things than I can even count besides those, talk about community building and we're trying to build this community, or this focus, we're community focused, community driven, community this, community that, blah blah blah. But if you just say that, it's just kind of words, and you can't really in my opinion, there's no formula to jumpstart a community. There's lots of ways to form, lots of ways they do form, which is very interesting to me. But it's a very hard process to make repeatable, which is why there's so much nuance to doing, being in the Web3 space and building a product, doing programs, etc. So I think, to me, the most important, feature of community is that it organically forms around a shared idea, around a shared vision, a shared mission statement. And it's not something that like the founders can super try to force. Otherwise, it feels very forced to me. I mean, I can cite a bunch of projects that like, they try to get the vibes going in Discord, blah, 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 and it just doesn't work and they kind of peter out. So it's important to be authentic and to be real and find people who share those ideas, as you said, and who maybe have a collective conscience trying to share the same problem. Maybe they have the same problem and they're here for the solution. Maybe they're trying to be something and they're not quite there yet. And then they're part of a project that's helped facilitating that. So that's what community means to me in about, I don't know, 7 or 8 thousand words or so.
I love that we have Jets here because you can speak to community from like a content creator. I would love to kind of hear about you and like what you feel like you run across as a content creator when it comes to building community.
Well, I mean, I did want to first like just chime in that I feel for brands or companies that are building in Web3 because the dynamic is so much different. Like just having to put yourself out there and accommodate a global audience 24/7. And like IMVU was saying, you have to accommodate all these people that want different things. Like for me, I'm not a Discord person. Like there's so many communities that I wish I was more like close to, but I just Discord is not my thing. You always catch me on Twitter. So I've kind of formulated just, a group of a community, what I call is just like-minded people that like to be together and enjoy looking and enjoy the same things, and it's not forced. I think somebody said it, I don't want to be too repetitive, but it just happened organically. It wasn't anything that I set out to do, but I did want to give a big shout out to all the companies that are built, because there's just so many challenges. And for you guys, I could see it as, whether it's using it as community feedback or for marketing, is another way you could use your community, but it could go right and it could also go wrong. And maybe I'll throw this question back to you guys. Like, what are some of the ways that you help navigate, the community pulling you in 20 different directions all at once?
Okay, I'm gonna set that up because I feel like that is such a very like it's a very important topic and it's a very interesting one. Because one thing that I'm constantly on top of, just like, hey, we want to tap into community and we want to form our own community. The next thing that I'm constantly always asked is, how do you measure that? Like, how does community measured and what does that mean? I've been a part of, Twitter community for X amount of years, and sometimes I find more value in the AMAs that I participate where it's just maybe 5 individuals. I formed long-lasting relationships with those individuals. And then I've also formed really long-lasting relationships with, people like you who pull in a much larger crowd. So to me, it's kind of like that I want to kind of open up that conversation as to what does community mean to everybody, but even deeper, like you just mentioned, like what is a measure of success when it comes to community building? And then I can bring that back to maybe let's go to because and then Cassidy.
Yeah, so the measure of success with the community, I would say, would be user retention. 'Cause there are such things as one-hit wonders. Like if you collaborate with a content creator that has, say like 300,000 followers, right? And then, you host a Twitter space and it's big, but then, you revert back to your normal scheduling, right? So say if you only have like 60 or 70 people on those spaces, then you didn't really add much from that community, right? So I would say that's how you would measure success. If you're collaborating with another content creator with a larger following, you want to present yourself on behalf of your community. If you're somebody in that community, say like, like myself, I'm head of partnerships, right? So if I have a collaboration with X KOL or a founder or whatever, my intention is to add to that conversation so that I'm able to have some of that community participate in mine and retain that over time. And, these communities with Web3 or, the digital asset marketplace, whatever you want to call it, the individuals that partake in these activities are a lot more vocal than people make them seem out to be. And I think the key thing to recognize is that we should be participating with our audience as much as possible and not just like collaboration, and never be open to reaching out to some community members that have been there since day one, right? I think communicating with your audience, right, is number one priority, because as quickly as you can build it up, all it takes is one bad day, and all of that hard work can just go back down to zero. And as far as like what I think community is, I'm pretty much with the panel up here. Community is basically an idea led by a few thought leaders, and seeing how those thoughts are implemented in action and how they evolve over time. And time is everything. Time will weed out the unloyal, and it will weed out if you really are about what you speak, especially in this space where, as big as we want it to be at the current moment, it's still a small circle. And if you're in here for enough time and you communicate with certain communities, word gets around, especially if you're a builder trying to build a startup, whether it's socially through media or financially. If you're a project, word gets around very quickly. And people know if you actually interact with your community, or you're just here trying to engagement form. So those are my thoughts on the first question that started off the space, and then of course, like, how to navigate through all that. And Jess, I know you had mentioned something about like, how do you navigate when the community is demanding 20 different things. I honestly think, if like being a startup, at least for myself, I just kick it up turbo. I up the ante. I hustle even harder, right? That's really the only answer. Like, you just have to sacrifice more of your time, and you only are one person. So if the community is demanding like way too much, then of course at that point communication should be number one. And we're here to serve the community, right? And that's one thing that I think the community should always be aware of, and we as thought leaders should make that communication known. So those are some of my thoughts. Thank you guys so much again for allowing me to give this long-winded rant. I'll pass it over to the next one.
Just ask Doodles how bad 24 hours can be.
Okay, let's go to
We've all been there, right?
Oh,
Yeah,
yeah.
I think you actually just mentioned something really interesting, which definitely for me is important, and that's retention. But when it comes to ultimately measuring success for community, I actually am going to give you a bit of a different answer than you would traditionally get for a CMO. And I think a lot of people approach it from a quantitative lens. How many people do we have in terms of numbers? What do our quantitative metrics look like? Those things are important. But when I really drill down, what do I actually care about? And what do I take meaning away from in terms of how I'm measuring the actual success and how that community is thriving? It's all qualitative. So how are people, like, what is the ultimate impression and feeling and emotion and energy and sense that of belonging that's happening within that community? And how is that being facilitated within and for the community by itself? And so I'm often looking at the measure of the qualitative sense just as much as I would for those quantitative markers.
I love that. Let's go over to Linus and then John.
Oh yeah, tacking on top of that, plus 1,000 to that. I've asked many people this question. I've been asked myself, how do you measure the quality of a community? And I don't have a great metric for it. I do think that how I would think about it is, the number and the intensity of the people that would go to bat for you, right? And like I said, they're not employees. Like, you're not paying them a salary to go market for you, but for some reason they are attached to what you're building, and they're fans on, they're supercharged, right? To the extent that they are the ones kind of shilling for you, right? When you make a decision, when you do something, they are the ones that are pounding the table, being like, this is all part of the master plan. And then on the same token, the flip side of the coin is they're the ones that are going to keep it real with you. They're going to call you out on your shit. They're going to say, hey, if you are messing up, these are the ones that are incredibly vocal about you, not from the perspective of trying to take you down, but from the perspective of like they deeply care about the success of this thing, and they have feedback for you. And in terms of getting mixed messages from the community, ultimately, I think as builders, you have to be really clear about like what is your vision, what is the thing that you're trying to build. Certainly, it is about a big part of communication is just listening, right? Making sure that as human beings, these people are feeling heard, and really, really take that feedback to heart. Ultimately, you may decide something different than one particularly vocal person or group in a community might be pushing for. But as long as you're able to explain kind of why you made this particular decision and you're transparent about it and you're kind of like consistent with your messaging, I would think that it can go okay. I think where some Web3 communities have really messed up has been kind of the opposite of building in public. Just heads down, let's go ship some things, and then the work will speak for itself. Unfortunately, in this day and age, like that doesn't work for a lot of different companies, for a lot of different communities. Like they want to be part of the conversation. They want to feel a sense of like that they can shape the roadmap and the vision because they deeply, deeply care about it.
Thank you. Let's go to John. I know that you probably have a lot to say about that because you guys, have an active community of, like 1 million plus users. So I'm sure that you guys probably run into this a lot where you're just constantly being pulled in different directions or people are shouting at the top of the lungs, what they want. And
For
it's probably
sure.
stuff that you're already working on and they're just not, patient, which is a whole nother conversation. But like, let's go ahead and open that up to
No,
you.
for sure. In fact, I think it's worth kind of touching on two of the things that are being discussed. One is kind of how do we think about kind of measuring the community, and for us, a lot of that, and it really ties to how we then try to address it, but really ties to two things: loyalty, and I can explain that too because that's a little bit of a broad word. Kind of the loyalty and engagement. We've been, as I mentioned, around 15 plus years. So we can obviously watch, track, engage with our users and understand, oh my gosh, we got X number of users, thousands of users that have been on the platform for over 10 years or over 5 years, or who on average put in, 10, 15, 20 hours a week. And I say put in, it's really a social platform. Primarily time is spent in the evenings, loads of time on the weekends. So, you can really get a sense. And of course, given our ecosystem, our economy is run by the users. You can tell the users who have spent hours, hundreds of hours creating items for their avatars to sell in the marketplace or, building out experiences on the platform. So we watch a lot of that. Loyalty for us too comes down to a couple things. One, of course, is their time spent because that's a pretty valuable asset. And then, of course, money spent, right? Also on the platform. Not everybody spends money on the platform, but it's obviously an indication too if people over those years have spent a lot of money on the platform. I'd say one thing too that we see is that our users, and this is all, if I think about this, I compare it to kind of where we are with Web3. This was happening before that, which was our users will go, they'll take their avatar names, their personas, and that, I guess in a lot of ways, like some of the brands, some of the communities in Web3 space, they'll have already created, Instagram accounts for those avatars. Again, these might be around as long as Instagram's been around, or other social platforms, and they may not use their real names in their avatar settings, but the engagement, the loyalty, the sense of community with this kind of anonymous persona is huge too. So I'd say then contrasting that a little bit is when we engage with that community, because they really are, and I'm going to say this and then I'm going to correct it, almost to a fault, listen to our community. Like, what do you guys want? Where do we want to go? We're thinking about doing these 5 new things and building these things out. What do you guys think? But at times, and we're kind of torn back and forth from this, and I'm not sure if it's Steve Jobs who said this, but someone kind of said, and it's got some cleverness to it, that, not all of your users know what they want, but they do know what they like. And so it's a tricky balance too at times, trying to listen, but also trying to discern and make calls on what should be done. And I know in our world, we're trying to leverage DAOs and everybody has a vote, and we are too. In fact, we're moving more and more towards that. But then there's also this kind of who can make the calls, or how do you make those harder calls sometimes that aren't quite being asked for, but that are important. I hope I'm not getting too off topic, but it's just always trying to serve this community, right? As we try to kind of build out these experiences.
I love that. And you just touched on a really important thing that, rewarding the community. We obviously, especially during their cycles where, we are really tapped into the community members who have been there from the beginning. I'm interested to hear what everyone's thought is or what's being worked on that you think is interesting or stuff maybe that you guys are working on yourselves to reward community members. And I'll open it up with Monterey.
Yeah, so I mean that's a great question. I wanted to talk about metrics before, but I'll let it go. If you want to talk about measuring things in Web3 space, I would borrow from Google's Heart framework. Throw away the T if we're not talking about like UX work or whatever, and it actually is pretty applicable. But how do we reward the community? That's a great question. I think to me, back in 2020, 2021, we were locked down in our homes and stuff. It was all about digital rewards, digital this, digital that. We saw a lot of the digital Ponzi's came up. I mean, CyberKongs did it probably the best, right? They were rewarding people with bananas and ERC20 token. I know we're in the middle of meme coin season right now, but that's not always the right way to go. So it's a very interesting question, and I think the answer to me is like you have to deliver something that in the eyes and the minds and the hearts of your target users brings value to them and to their lives. Does it solve a problem? Maybe. Does it enhance their lives in some way? Potentially. But it can't all just be about financial incentives. I know that's what a lot of the space is driven upon, and hopefully, numbers go up, or else, the devs can do something. But it's about, I think, right now in this day and age, especially tying in the digital and physical worlds. And it depends on your thesis for your project. But, like with us with Lunatics, we're really diving into the intersection of technology and art and culture. And what does that mean? So we're talking about rewarding people with obviously digital artwork, with physical artworks that are like one of ones to kind of make them into real world like art collectors, because we know that investment goes up. And that makes the number go up just over time. Look at it versus the S&P 500. Doing things that are innovative and bringing attention to the projects is rewarding in itself, because it helps with the networking, which is a big reason why people are in the space. So really, in my opinion, you figure out who you care about, you figure out what they care about, and you lean into that 100% of the way, and then pivot as you need to. And that's how you really bring kind of authentic rewards that achieve our main goal for rewarding the community, which in my opinion is always retention and really recommendation, right? We want people to stay forever, and we want people talking about why they're staying forever. And so, we can always use that as a measurement to figure out if our rewards are hitting the mark. And if not, we can adjust in real time. And as I said, no one will tell you if you're doing, a bad job faster than the Web3 space, which is why this is a product person's dream and a business person's nightmare. So yeah, and that's why I love the space. I'm in the product side. So.
Full transparency, we're partnered with Origin Protocol, and one of the reasons why we partnered with them is because of the creator and marketplace tooling that they have. And I would love for Linus to kind of speak on that, and then for kind of Cassidy to go off of that, and then we can just kind of popcorn.
Amazing. Thanks for that tee up. Yeah, so as I mentioned, we're here to serve Web3 creators, helping them build their business, and community is obviously a very big part of that. We started with marketplaces. We tacked on a bunch of other things, including analytics dashboards. So if I'm a prospective buyer, want to get into this community, how can I kind of understand the health of the community? So things like, notable holders that you might want to know about, or what is the distribution of holdings? Are there some big people that have like strong conviction in this particular NFT project that they're holding a lot? And like, how can I understand that at a glance? And so that was kind of a foray into kind of like, how do we serve those communities? We got amazing reaction to that, and we're planning to double and triple down. And so one of the things that I think we all know, if you've been active in the crypto space, is incentives and rewards drive behavior. And we're definitely seeing that happen with the likes of Blur, which is giving away a ton of free money. But that's fantastic for their business, but it really serves their own business goals. It does not really serve what matters to creators. And so we are effectively thinking about those mechanics. What you'll actually see live today on every Origin powered marketplace is a royalty leaderboard, right? So simple concept, very familiar concept of leaderboards, but really not focusing on people that might be wash trading, but focusing on people who are actually doing something that matter to the creators, which is paying royalties and actually like showcasing that as a badge of honor. Now, V2 of this, which is actually something we're very excited to roll out soon, is a platform where you can actually have a creator start to incentivize and provide points for behaviors that they want to promote and incentivize, whether it is paying royalties, whether it is kind of holding a bunch of NFTs or supporting the project from day one, those kinds of things. And then ultimately a platform where they can then distribute rewards and incentives to their community. And those can come in monetary form, like a custom ERC20 token. Heard some shout outs to the meme coins. Of course, you can do that. And we support projects to do that. But then there's also things like experiential rewards, like a one-of-one coffee chat with the founder of the community, or a follow back, or merch, or invitations to a specific event. And we know these things are already happening in various platforms. Like you've all seen the like and retweet for a chance to give away an NFT. And what we've realized is just like people are hacking together engagement and rewards. And if we can actually build a platform to sort of like give creators a centralized tool to not centralized in the form of like, an organization, but centralized as in like bringing it all together and allowing them to prioritize real things that matter to their community. We think that would be worthwhile work. And so we're really excited to roll this out soon and get people's feedback.
Go ahead, Cassie. Sorry.
Yeah, that's great. And just to kind of piggyback on that and a little bit about what you were inquiring about, Bianca, with creator opportunities. You've actually heard me tell this story before, but about 6 years ago, this is one of the biggest reasons that I actually got into this space to begin with. I had just gone through a year of really focused work on the first novel that I wrote. And I put, so much love and energy and attention and effort into this project. And then I began the process of navigating the black hole that is the publishing experience for so many writers. And I remember thinking at the time that there just weren't any pathways that I felt like were direct to the people that I wanted to share my writing with. And that there weren't opportunities where I could directly, as a creator, know and have control over the outcome of my work and know that I was going to be fairly compensated for that work. And in the end, that was definitely something that has always stuck with me and inspired me in this space. And it's actually one of the things that I'm most excited about the work with Lunatics, because the focus really is about leveraging those creator opportunities to then bring new things to community. So bringing that art more directly to people in a way that broadens ownership and also gives more access. But in the other way, also gives more opportunity for the artists themselves, because they have that direct channel of that shared interest. It all kind of goes back to that.
I love it. I want to hear John kind of talk about something that Linus brought up, which is rewarding and just kind of creating this experience. I know that you guys work closely with some of your creators, and I would love to see what you guys are doing on your end.
Yeah, no, and there's a handful of I don't know what to call them, so I'll just call them kind of like reward systems that are built into the platform. And by the way that we've always kind of built out our community and this almost micro societies is by putting all these tools out in place and letting these communities kind of do their thing, if you will. And a key part of that is these reward type systems. Again, users can decide to engage with them if they want or don't want to. And I'll start with the creators. We call a certain sets of our community creators. These are folks, users in the community who actually create digital goods. These can be outfits, avatar shapes, all kinds of customizations, animations that your avatars might do, furniture for rooms, settings, entire beach settings, anything in the virtual world can be almost put into this marketplace. And obviously the reward system for that are a couple things. One, obviously users can earn. They can earn real money. They can earn, in this case now, kind of tokens that can be turned into fiat and cash. And that's important to a set of our creators. I'd say this, though, over half of our creators just want to earn other assets that they can then spend in the ecosystem. They're not even looking necessarily to take cash out of the ecosystem or out of the metaverse. So there's earning in ways that don't necessarily mean, more cash to pay your rent. I think another thing is that a lot of creators will create just to put cool things into the marketplace, or to say this is mine, or to kind of have that sense of creating, right, and sharing with the community. And so there's a set of, I'll call them reward systems inside being a creator. Similarly, we call other users on our platform hosts or producers, folks that run experiences. So folks that might put together and run like a nightclub tonight on the platform, and they'll bring in dancers and DJs and bartenders and create this environment. And some of them do it just for fun too, or because they love the community. In fact, up until recently, until we introduced kind of, peer-to-peer transactions with crypto assets where they could kind of pay each other, that's mainly what they did. They just because they enjoyed and loved being a part of the community. But now we've added the component so that there's peer-to-peer payments in that kind of sense. But what's interesting too is, because again, a majority of our users in the community aren't putting down hard cold cash every day. A lot of the rewards for them are positive interactions, right? Are times together. So how do we put these systems in place that make it easy for other users to share, I'll say the love with each other on the platform, right? Or for users to feel successful on the platform, or to promote those kind of interactions on the platform. And I could go into that in more detail, but and I have a sense too that a lot of these communities, especially in Web3, a lot of them will have different types of reward systems, right? Sometimes I can tell in a lot of these communities, it is about just being part of the community. And yes, there might be some group who's trying to, drive some appreciation around an asset that they just bought. But I keep sharing with everybody that a majority of these communities, a majority of the users are much more about the community, right? And being proud to be a part of it, or engaging with that in some way that, again, brings them value. So apologize if there's a lot there. It just seems like there's, again, just these communities, there's often so many different motivations to being a part of it. And so there might be different ways that users feel rewarded,
Go ahead, Jess. I unmuted.
Oh,
Sorry.
no. Yeah, I
There was
was
an
just
accident.
going to say that I completely agree. Like value is subjective. So people are going to find value in different things. And I think sometimes, as just a participant in Web3, sometimes people's expectation of that every reward.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense.
Something,
I agree.
Mary.
Like, it's really important to figure out the right rewards really rapidly and quickly, because you don't get a lot of second chances in this space.
Probably can't hear me.
So if you don't hit it,
Rivers.
if you
Can you
don't
hear?
connect with your community,
Oh, nope,
you
he
connect with
can't.
the
Let me
people
Hold
that
on.
you
message
want to
him.
be near.
Yo,
All right,
Macho,
we're
He
gonna
can't hear
put
us.
Monterey down, and we'll bring him
My
back
bad, I can't
up.
hear y'all.
Sorry, Monterey, we'll bring you back up. I forgot what I was saying now. No problem. Oh yeah, I was saying that.
Dang it, you were on a good one.
Yeah, I was just saying that, so values, and people are going to find, like how Linus was saying, like highlighting the top people who have paid royalties. Like you can't expect I don't expect everything that I get as a reward to be monetary. Like it's an insane expectation to always expect money, money, money from these companies. Like at some point, they need to pay the bills as well. So I think that the reward system, it could be me just learning something. Like if I'm able to join a community where I just learn, or where I'm being, highlighted as a community member, like that's sufficient for me. Like it doesn't always have to be monetary. And I do see that Matt came up, and maybe Matt as like an as not as somebody else who's just a participant in Web3. Like what do you feel is a good reward system? Do you always expect a money value from a community?
I feel like they definitely should be like incentivizing their holders or their community to do something. Like if I, like, let's say I subscribe to Jess or Bianca or Origin or whatever. If I subscribe to your community or even your page, like I would expect something. Not, it doesn't even have to be money, but it has to be like something, like to where I'm like, okay, we're both receiving like an equal value proponent as to why I should keep engaging with you. I don't feel like just being a holder is enough. I feel like if you make art, cool. I get the artwork, I hang it up somewhere, or I keep it in my wallet. But if it's like I want to say like a token, or so even SHIB, right? If you holding SHIB, like eventually, aside from the monetary aspect, I feel like they should be trying to do something, which they did. So they started the game, they started the metaverse lands. So they're trying to keep the community engaged, and I feel like that's what fuels the growth of the project.
Let's go to Rivers because I feel like you probably didn't hear us talking, and I know that you have a lot to say when it comes to community building and just expectations of
Sorry,
community.
I booted you. Oh wait, where is he? He's gone again. I did not boot him this time.
Oh no, I'll invite him back up, but maybe we punt that to Cassidy while we bring him back up.
Bianca, I'm actually just gonna punt that right back to you because you haven't gotten to answer one of those questions yet, and this is a prime one for you. Like that is where you spend so much of your time, and I'm really curious to hear your thoughts on it.
Oh man. Yeah, I mean, I guess that's one of the reasons that I got involved in the space to begin with is because, over the better half of my professional career, I spent it in marketing and content marketing, and trying to position businesses for communities in the Web 2 space, or just in the Web 2 space in general. And that was tapping into Instagram and specific people who wanted to purchase specific things. And a lot of that time that involved go to market strategies to kind of get exposure. And then that's kind of when like Bitcoin took off 6 years ago, like two bull cycles up. And I grew this fascination with kind of how communities get formed before there's a big pump like that. Like, what is it that happens? What is it that keeps them there? What is the value that's being had? How is the value for Bitcoin being determined? And that's really what kind of took me into a deep dive, especially when it came to like NFTs, because up until and to this day, people hear about cryptocurrency and Web3. And when I talk about it in my day to day life, people like throw up a cross at me and want to throw like freaking holy water because they have no idea how to consume that or what that even means. And one of the things that I think provide value is really education. Like one of the things that have kept me in the space is education for sure. And just overall trust that I have built with these communities. Sure, I can mint this thing with you, but like, what is the long term goal with the project? How is that providing value? Can I see this being scaled? Who's the team that's behind it? How can I learn from them? Because a lot of that, some of the individuals that I have met in the space have completely transformed their life for the good or for the worse, but for the better, for the worse, because of the community building aspect of it. They didn't just come in, mint or purchase a token. They kind of, stuck around, sat, held, and they were anticipating the next thing. Like Matt brought up SHIB. I purchased SHIB like 4 years ago, sold it, purchased it again, and I was, happened to be part of that that bull pump, which is interesting. But one of the reasons why I held was because of the value that was provided by that community. So that's one of the things that I look for. And I would love to kind of hear Rivers, because I know he's like, for those that you guys should follow him, because he's seriously the encyclopedia of Web3. I'm constantly going to him, apart from a bunch of other people, but he's somebody that I definitely respect in the space, because he, if anything, is constantly providing education, not even just like broadcasting it and amplifying it, but even like in our community, he does his like community Web3 forecast where he just talks about community and highlights a bunch. So I would love to know what you find value in.
Yeah, thanks. Hopefully Twitter's done rugging me and I'm done interrupting everybody, but we'll see.
You're good.
Yeah, I blame Elon. Yeah, so I look for, like, I try to surround myself with people who are smarter than me, right? I mean, that's kind of a cliche, whatever, but like, I like communities that are about innovation, that are about kind of like builders. There's a lot of builders in there, or that there's artists and creators and a bunch of creative conversations going on, things like that. Like where the conversation is not only just about the project, it's not just about like will the number go up, but we're talking about interesting things or things that are happening across the space. So like places that favor on-chain innovation usually excite me because there's a lot of cool things that that people are doing on chain. And Anonymize is like one of my favorite communities because there's like home of a ton of builders and like everybody does projects in there, or like some of the best Web3 devs in the space are there, where I learn how little I know about Web3 on a daily basis, even though I'm constantly like researching and trying. So like it's those types of communities and stuff like that that really focus on innovation or have like a really strong mission. Like Lucas Nets, I really respect what Pudgy Penguins are doing right now. For example, he took them over from a rugger, if you will, and completely changed it. He's very focused. He's out there grinding every day. They have a focused mission. They want to be a consumer brand, global, kind of family-friendly brand, and launch a bunch of things that sort of drive towards that goal. Plushies and video content, things of that nature. I think that's really interesting. And so, like, if you're into marketing or like you're really trying to learn about that stuff, that's a great community to go learn from. So, like, just like with building a product, as you can kind of treat it the same way as a collector or a member of the community, or I do anyway. I look for like what interests me and what are like some things that I want to learn about, and then kind of seek out communities that are all about that, and try to avoid all of the really bad ones that we all run into from time to time as well.
Go ahead, because you've had your hand up for a while.
Yeah, no problem, no problem. Thanks for allowing me to speak once more. I think as far as like some of these projects are concerned, as far as like how I believe they can retain their communities is focusing on telling a story, a narrative, their story, how they got there, the challenges they faced, their vision, problems, solutions, all that stuff, and offer a lot of good insight on said narrative and how that ties into the project, right? So most projects don't really have to exist in Web3 or crypto, or however you want to call it. Some of them are just, made for fun, right? Like Dogecoin, it's all for fun. SHIB, right? All the meme coins. It's just fun. And the communities are supposed to be fun, right? Whether it's through a YouTube stream with another content creator, whether it's a Twitter space, whether it's a Discord call, whether it's a Twitch stream, most of all, it should be fun. And like you can have the greatest tech in the world, but if you're out of touch with your community and you're doing no effort, no exertion of effort into effective marketing in your protocol, then you're doing a disservice to your community. Because then outside of your inner circle, right, no one's gonna really know what you're about. And those are my takes going into the current topics of this conversation. And on top of that, I think like mobile integration should be huge. It shouldn't just be like desktop. And as far as incentivization, education would be the main thing, because anybody could launch a DeFi application on Ethereum and then have like, you know, the tokens that were allocated to VCs, like the extra portions of that, just to be farmed by the community. But, you know, we all know how that always ends up. It ends up with token depreciation, and then the devs just dump on you for quote unquote marketing purposes, and that's not a sustainable ecosystem. So I think that that's gonna change now. How that looks, I'm not so sure, but I think that's where you know, quote unquote NFT fi comes into place. And you know, sometimes an NFT just has to have a fun community. That's it. Some people just like the artwork. Some people don't really want to get into, I guess, like the over leveraged habit that DeFi has, right? Like if you're an artist and you want to dive into Web3, like there's no reason why you should have a yield bearing NFT that you can stake and take a loan against, and then wrap it in a synthetic and earn some tokens from that yield bearing NFT. It's just leverage on leverage on leverage and making it too overcomplicated. Um, I think something as simple as just wrapping the narrative of fun around these NFT projects should be priority. And, you know, people enjoy things like shit posting and overall just fun.
Great take, great take. And I know we are at the top of the hour, and I do want to be respectful of everybody's time. Um, but I guess I do have a question for you guys. And then as you guys answer, maybe you can come around and go around the room and let us know what you guys got coming up next, whether it's with your project or your personal brand. But I guess what would be a tip, or what are you guys doing to bring in to attract new community members? So obviously, yes, we want to keep our community engaged, but we also want to bring in new community members. So I don't know who wants to go first on that one.
I'll go first. So yeah, I mean, one of the fun things, I guess, I'll kill two birds with one stone here is, you know, partnerships. One of the, obviously, the partnerships that we have is with Origin Protocol. And one of the fun things that Lunatics actually has planned is a cross-platform activation that will be happening the 3rd, I believe at 9 a.m. Correct me if I'm wrong here, Maddie. And what's really interesting is we have several partners, yeah, at 9 a.m. So several partners who are going to be incentivizing their community to participate in that choose your own adventure, which is cross-platform. It starts off on the Origin protocol. You know, it's going to be a Twitter post that happens at that time that then kind of takes users on an encrypted journey that will then end them back at a specific location that they'll have to solve as a community. And we have the bakery, we have like Bitfinity, we have Origin Protocol, we have several other communities. If you want to participate, let me know because I'll be happy to plug you in. But that's one fun way that we thought we could, you know, really incentivize the community to just participate in having fun. And if they decide to stick around and check our project out, great. But if not, then at least it gives them a good hour to kill on Twitter. If hopefully it's at least under an hour, but I probably think it's going to be more. It's a bit difficult that myself and the engineering team put together that I'm very excited about. That's one of my tips that I have for community building is just provide value, provide something fun for the community to do. It's kind of like, you know, what Because just mentioned, sometimes shit posting and having fun, that's all the community wants half the time. And I love being able to leverage that. So that's something fun. And I'll go ahead and punt it to Linus.
Oh man, you know, I obviously I think you did it better than I could have. I'm very, very excited about the Lunatics collaboration. You know, we're focused on making creators successful, so we are excited about rolling out this kind of the gamification, the leaderboards, but a platform for creators to determine what, you know, what behaviors do they want to incentivize, what things matter in their community, and like how they also want to give out incentives, right? I loved the takes here around, hey, like some people might choose to give out coins, right? Like that's totally cool. For others, it's about something else. It's about education. It's about experience. And we're here to serve. And we're building out a platform that can do all of that and more. So yeah, pass it on to someone else.
I can jump in. This is John from IMVU. One of the things we do, and I appreciate the point that was just shared around this idea of partnerships, collaborations, and things. We like bringing communities together, right? So as we do various partnerships, and I'll just kind of focus here on the Web3 space, as we do partnerships with very kind of cool, popular Web3 brands, we try to find ones that overlap with our community a lot. So our user base, our community is over 65% female and very kind of creator driven. So I'll just, again, since we're talking a lot about NFTs, NFT communities that have similar demographics or kind of a bent to them, we're like, hey, let's bring those together. So the partnerships and brands, and you'll see this roll out here this year at IMVU and through MetaJuice, are brands and collaborations with those various communities. And they won't always fit. I think they'll hopefully have fun together as the communities kind of collide together and come into our metaverse or we come into their world. But I think some people will stick, right? Because when people want a more engaging experience, want to take a flat discussion, say in a Reddit feed, into an avatar state and actually talk, maybe as we are here in a Twitter space, or actually engage in kind of more human interactions that maybe are possible with avatars. That's what we're doing a lot of. And so yeah, if folks are interested too, just follow IMVU or MetaJuice, because there's a lot of cool stuff happening as we try to really put our arms around this broader Web3 space and bring these communities together, right? Why not?
Awesome. Anybody go ahead, BB, and then we'll go to Rivers. We'll end it off with Rivers and Lunatics.
Yeah, so something that I do personally, being the head of partnerships here, is I like covering all the innovation stuff of crypto. So we've covered pretty much everything on Arbitrum. We've had guys from GMX, CeeLo, DopeX, Gains Network, you name it. Same thing with blockchain modularity. We'll be having Fuel Network, Celestia, Dimension. We also have TED Talks Macro. So like I said earlier, we also have content focusing on content creators, right? So people like Trader XO, Big Cheds, Benjamin Cowan, really a whole plethora of things. And yeah, so like I said, anywhere from like big project names that are currently raising money, projects that are already known like Thorchain, Anchor, stuff like that. Plethora of things on the Cosmos Hub, but also on content creators. I know, I remember Jess when you came up on one of our spaces, and I'm like, cool, let's have Jess be a co-host so she can be initiated into the community. And I think that's another thing too that's pretty inclusive. Whenever you see somebody that you've seen on your timeline, on your crowd as a listener, feel free to bring them up and even be a co-host. I think that's something that's really inclusive. So I also saw, Jess, that you retweeted our pinned tweet. So thank you so much for that. And thank you so much for being a supporter because Bitcoin. And I'm looking forward to tuning into more of your spaces. And, it's pretty obvious that you keep good company around. And, I always enjoy communicating with those that are filled with passion in the space. And, yeah, really excited to learn more about all things NFTs and things of the like. We'll be covering that more over the coming weeks, and hopefully I'll get to see you in BTC Miami next month. So, yeah,
Sounds
thank you guys
good.
so much.
Thank you, because go ahead, Rivers.
Appreciate it. Thank you. And thank you again, for bringing us on and allowing us to, share this space with all of these great people. I think everybody's had amazing takes and hopefully made some new friends here. And we just built a new community here tonight. So very applicable. But yeah, I'd say, both my worlds are kind of focused around innovation in Web3 space. So, in my day job with Nifty's, we're actually launching a no-code creator platform that's very focused here. It allows community members to build sort of activities, like Web3 gamified activities around their favorite communities. With no code, no dev experience needed. So that's interesting, and we'll have a lot more about that. Kind of, you'll see some press stuff around that soon. But with Lunatics, we're really focused on innovation as well. And like, here's a little alpha drop. Like, we're kind of building this provenance protocol for our prints. But all our head artist is probably going to start using this too. I'm spoiling it for him. Like, we're definitely going to use it in the prints and try it out as an experiment, as sort of like a provable way, like that it's an authentic thing, built on our own protocol, around NFC chips and things of that nature. That'll be a lot of fun to experiment with, and all of our holders at Lunatics will get all of those for free. We just want to give it out to people and let them experience, Christopher's amazing art while they're experiencing Christopher and Nuxer's amazing art, in the collection and digital space. But not only that, Origin, we're talking about that. We're doing a marketplace, but we've built into our contract sort of an on-chain loyalty point mechanism, which is all decentralized as well. It's non-transferable except to approved accounts. So you can't make a liquidity pool out of it, which is intentional. But what you can do is, we're going to work on trying to enable it on Origin's marketplace. So we'll have sort of a Lunatics points marketplace, all totally decentralized, kind of partnering between our two things. That'll be a lot of fun, and that's where we can get our partner projects can start giving away NFTs, or we can, we'll buy their NFTs and put them on their marketplace for our users to experience. We'll do prints there, and with our real life artist partners who are on our advisory board, their pieces might be on there, things of that nature. So that'll be a lot of fun to experiment with and like build around. And see how the community responds to that. And then, again, even with the launch itself, we've created this same mechanism to create our NFTs, or have our NFTs evolve automatically on chain. It's all happening on chain, but the user doesn't have to send a transaction to make it happen, right? So it's a gasless evolution, kind of like a spin on what No Pasta did with his Orans. It's a Commodore 64 emulator, which if you hold it for so long, you can level it up, and at each level is sort of a different experience. Ours is like that, only you don't have to pay a transaction for it. So you'll start off with more of like a plain Lunatic, and we've made it so every day it's going to evolve a little bit more before it gets to its final form. And so we're bringing evolution to the reveal process. We're doing evolutions, sort of innovations around everything. And that's what I'm most excited about, is figuring out, like, what does our community want to innovate around too? What you have an idea, let's try it. We have amazing engineers. We want to build, we want to try things, because this is Web3 and we're decentralizing, the authority. So I'm really excited, if you can't tell, sort of about what all is coming next and what we can all enable with the decentralized technologies, and hopefully not get wrecked in the process.
I thought you were going to mention about the free ordinal inscription that we were going to drop our community as well. We're also covering their gas, I believe. Yeah.
That's right. We're going to do that too, because we want to have Bitcoin. We want to have a presence on Bitcoin as well, so we can say we're multi-chain. So let's inscribe some ordinals and give them out to people for free. So we just want to give out a bunch of free stuff too. That's like the thing, like free art, free fucking everything. Oop, I can't say that. Free effing everything.
I don't think we actually even mentioned mint date yet. So that's really what's big next for us. We have the May the 4th is officially Lunatics Day, in addition to Star Wars. So our Genesis collection will be minting that day, and we're all very excited for that. And just to kind of close the loop on that other question.
Intentional choice, by the way. Huge Star Wars fans here.
What do we do really to grow communities? I think for me, I'm always reminding myself that a community really is a person-to-person relationship in the end. And just like any relationship, it's really, you should be having fun together. You should be communicating. No relationship can thrive when you're not communicating. You should be respecting each other. You should invest in one another. And of course, like any good relationship, you should have boundaries. And when you do those things, you see it grow.
Oh, I wasn't sure if you got cut off or if you were done, but I couldn't.
No, I think we're done now. Yeah.
Can you hear me? Can you hear me or
no? Thank you. It's so great to be here with all of you today.
Oh, wait, I'm sorry. Hold on.
Thank you, Jess and Bianca. This is great. Great community you guys have built.
Oh, wait, can you guys hear me now? I'm sorry about that. I was having technical issues. I think I got rugged on my account. But no, yeah, I
No, I can
think
hear you now.
great points all around. Oops. And what I did want to say is that like I'm excited about this partnership and like and the fact that you guys were introduced from one of my spaces really gives me fuzzy feelings and makes me feel great. So never be afraid to reach out like Bianca did. There's a lot of great people in this space. Keep on working together and collaborating. Before we go, Leo, I'll give it to you real quick. Go ahead before we wrap up.
No, I just wanted to come up and man, it's a great space. Yeah, I remember. I think Bianca was in that space that day, and I remember she said she was gonna reach out, and I think she did. So congrats on that. I came in towards the bitter end, but yeah. I did have a question because it is a new launch and stuff like that. Um, and what is your biggest thing? Like I know there's always something running in your head when you want to launch something. You want to make sure there's no issues, or hiccups, or are you gonna mint out or not? Like what are your key points as far as like what you're focused on first as far as for the launch?
Go ahead, Rivers.
Do you
I was going to
want me
answer
to take
that,
it?
but you
Okay, yeah,
can go
okay, yeah.
ahead.
I mean, that's a great question. So yeah, we're definitely focused first on user experience. You know, I'm a product person. That's always going to be my focus. Making sure everything is super smooth. It's not really bottable. We've got lots of bot protection going in. Um, we want to make that, you know, first and foremost a priority, because we want our stuff in the hands of holders. You know, it's the second priority. We want our items in the hands of holders, so that we can build a community and really have a lot of input. We want people who are innovators and creators, who are art collectors, who maybe want to be art collectors, but that stuff's too expensive. Well, let us give it to you. That's our point. So we can kind of share it with the world. But so yeah, we're focused very much on user experience and sort of, you know, organically building around a shared vision. So that's our primary thing, and making sure the tech is super smooth. Um, and if not, then I'm going to hear about it and probably not sleep for like an entire week till May, like the 12th. So hopefully it
Yeah, I
works.
think, and then to wrap it up with the topic at hand, it's community building at the end of the day. One thing that Rivers didn't even mention is the fact that this is a fair Dutch auction with a on-chain refund mechanism. So first bids get first editions, and if the fair Dutch auction closes at a cheaper, mint, then you get that automatically refunded to you. And that was done on purpose to protect our minters and also to just kind of conserve floor price as well. Not only that, but we also have a bunch of fun activations planned for community to happen after the fact. And we're kind of premiering that with Origin on May 3rd at 9 a.m., for that cross community platform activation. And it's really kind of to not just engage our community in Origin, but really to kind of engage the broader ecosystem. So those are really the kind of the key things that we're focused on. And we're actually already planning launch too. Like we have a bunch of stuff planned to not keep our holders at that point waiting and already providing value. And those are the things that we're ultimately focused on.
No, congrats.
I love it. Great question, Leo. Great way to wrap it up. I do want to thank all the speakers and all the listeners for coming. Bianca, thank you so much and good luck for the mint. I'll definitely be rooting for you and the team. And yeah, and thank you. And I hope everybody has a good night. I'll be back on Friday for Crypto and Coffee, so make sure to check that out. Thank you guys. Have a great